I don't really know much of the AJ before Backstreet Boys. I don't really know much of the AJ of early Backstreet Boys days. I just have seen the AJ of the last 10 years, which has really been crazy to watch the transformation, because 10 years ago, you weren't so much in the spotlight as you are now. And you've spent this last year very much so in the spotlight, but also achieving a year of sobriety.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
You didn't start really getting into drinking until you were already in your 20s. You'd already been a Backstreet Boy for many a years. You've been touring the world, having, all of these fun, crazy adventures as a teen and into your early 20s. And then all of the sudden, your alcoholism kicked in. I'm wondering, do you pinpoint that to a certain thing? Like, when I think about the little stuff that I know, the little of you that I know pre-Backstreet Boys or even early days of Backstreet Boys, like, do you think that trauma plays a role in I'll just ask for you, in your alcoholism and addiction? Do you think not having a dad growing up? Do you think something, being in the spotlight, all of the pressure, do you think that trauma played a role in your addiction?
It's funny you asked that question. I just had this conversation with my sponsor just the other day, talking about that exact word, trauma. Because in my mind, I was too young for my dad leaving to be traumatic for me. But as the years went on, being kind of the golden boy in my family, I'm an only child. My parents were divorced when I was around 3. Saw my dad again when I was around 11, and then didn't see him again for about 18 years. Looking back on it now, I could say that there was trauma. There was the abandonment issue. There was this disconnect of not having a father figure. But trauma, as far as the group goes, I mean, look, I was 14 when this whole thing started. And it didn't just take off by any means. We didn't really get success, I'd say, until like the end of 97, 98. 96 is when we put out our first album. But really, like 98 going into 99, which was our Millennium album, which was our biggest album. Back in the 90s, your first album was obviously, it was important, but it wasn't make it or break it. Your sophomore album, as they would call it, is the most important back then. If your sophomore album tanked, your career was over. We luckily had the Millennium album as our sophomore album, which was 35 million albums sold worldwide. It was the biggest record we've ever done. And at that point, there was this shift of almost like a God complex for me, of like, I can do whatever the hell I want now. Like, I can't go anywhere, but when I do, everybody's eyes are on me and it's all about me. But at the same time, it was eating me away inside. Like, I can't go anywhere. Like, this is insane. But that insecurity that I still have. And I think it's funny that it shocks people that I'm so insecure, knowing that I can perform for 80,000 people.
That was definitely, as I was getting to know you. So for anyone who doesn't know the background, I knew Rochelle before I met Alex, before they were together, and we kind of started this relationship. Our kids ended up in preschool together. And yeah, that was definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm better now.
Part of the alcoholism, right?
Like, it is.
This, I feel like, and unless you've been in that, it's hard to understand this feeling of insecurity and this gaping hole inside of us, right? That's like never filled.
No.
That you feel like you constantly have to be filling with clothes or watches or shopping or sex or drugs or alcohol or whatever it might be.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that a lot of people misunderstand is alcoholism is self-diagnosed. It's not, no doctor, no one can sit there and say, hey, guess what? So your labs came back, you're an alcoholic. It does not work that way. So my bandmates never really thought I was an alcoholic. They just figured, okay, whenever he drinks, he goes 0 to 100. But there's been days where he doesn't drink. And through the thick of my disease, before I went to rehab the first time, I was a functioning alcoholic. I was able to, be the first one downstairs, last one to bed. My vocals were not, being hurt by it. My performance was not being hurt by it. Then towards the end, before I went to treatment the first time, the one thing I said I would never do, I started doing, which is drinking on stage. And, the last 3 songs of our show, the third to last, I did this whole acting intro with a fake cell phone, and the song was The Call. And
my favorite song, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And I'd walk around and like we had this like fake phone ring, and I'm like, who is it? Is it you? And I'm looking at fans, and then I look at my band, and I would go to my percussion player, and he would have a red Solo cup there filled with Jack. And I would walk over there and say, is it you? I'm like, man, I'm thirsty. And I would just chug it. And it wouldn't hit me until like 5 minutes till the end of the show, because I'm dancing full out. So now the alcohol is like, it's in my blood. I'm going. And then I was off to the races. As soon as we got back to the hotel, it was straight to the mini bar, straight to the bar, whatever it was, black out, fall asleep, wake up as if nothing ever happened. And that was the deal for me for 2 years. I didn't even see the sunlight for 2 years, literally. But today, that insecurity level has gone significantly down. It's not gone.
It's true. Yes.
It's gone significantly down.
Seen a major shift.
Because, and there's no good way to say this without it sounding somewhat mean, but I am to a place now where I don't give a shit what you think about me. Like I don't. Like I could take it or leave it. I am the person I am for all the reasons and all the life lessons that I've learned and will continue to learn. Like there's so much left to learn. I mean, I'm still working through my steps in my AA program. I've yet to sponsor someone because I haven't worked through my steps yet, which terrifies me to take someone under my wing, but it's also super exciting.
You'll be fine.
I know, I'm sure. But again, like I've come to a place now where I'm finally can say that I'm comfortable in my own skin.